Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Today we have Cody Gardner, the defense coordinator and linebackers coach at Park City High School. Coach, how you doing?
Doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Also, more importantly, by this point, several episodes would come out, but he is also the host and creator of the Cover 2 and Barbecue, which is probably at this point a food heaven point for a lot of coaches. So,
yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think, it's I've got lots of guys that want to do it and want to be part of it. I feel guilty though because there are guys all over the country that are like, I'm in. I'm like, yeah, I don't have we don't quite have the budget yet to be traveling. But I think I could do 20 shows in Texas right now. I think I could go to California and do a dozen shows, or there's guys that are like, and I'm sure the newest one we're going to release is with Coach Allball. And it was just unique that we got a guy from outside of the state in town. And so we just shot it. I've got another guy that has in-laws near here, and he comes for every Christmas. And he's like, when I'm in town for Christmas, we're going to shoot one. And it's a blast because there's not much more, family. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all about family, food, and football, right? And so I just love it, right? There's not a lot going on. I can cook and we have a good time, and the football game's playing the whole time, and so that's that. And the idea that every red-blooded American thinks he understands football, knows football, and knows how to grill. Every guy, every dude thinks that. And so I just love doing it, and it's a great excuse to eat and talk ball. It's the if we could take a hibachi grill and set it in the lobby of a clinic, right? That's what I want it to be, right? I want it to be literally hey, by the way, we're all going to talk ball, da da da. But instead of bar napkins, it'll be paper towels with barbecue sauce in the corners. That would be the epitome of the show. Would just be that kind of vibe of really relaxed, cooking the food we want to cook, sharing ideas, and just it's great. I love breaking bread with my brothers. It's the ultimate.
Well, I think people are going to figure that out as they watch your episodes, and hopefully by the time this comes out, there's plenty of them out, because we spent 45 minutes before we even started filming just talking food. That was you were explaining all your new stuff, and I'm just I am getting really hungry right now. But I'll ask you this, because obviously the barbecue part of that makes sense, but why do you name it, say, Cover 3 in barbecue, Cover 4 in barbecue? Why do you choose Cover 2? I'm just curious. I haven't even asked you this question.
I love Cover 2. Okay. Right? I love Cover 2, right? And I think it sounded good, Cover 2 and barbecue, palm and sous vide. It doesn't, whatever. It just doesn't sound I just wasn't sure and kind of, what to do. And I just thought Cover 2 and barbecue kind of had a ring to it.
Yeah, it does.
And really it's not barbecue, it's grill, it's regular cooking. We didn't even, on the second episode we did with Coach Bowen at Logan High, we just did tortillas. We didn't touch a grill, and so, and I don't want to get in one of those barbecue versus grill debates. I got to name it something. I thought it sounded cool.
That sounds good.
Right, and so it kind of explains what we're doing.
Yeah.
But ideally, I love barbecuing. So I've got guys lined up it's going to literally be, we'll talk literally to the name, talk Cover 2 and barbecue, but it could be anything from. I've talked about that sous vide thing that I've got going on right now. It could be cheesecake and, linebacker fits we're going to talk about today. But yeah, it was just one of those things. And I've got maybe a knack. I know Voss always talks about he can't name anything. He's not good with creating names or whatever. I think that's one of my few knacks, picking someone's number.
Yeah.
I can look at you, you're a 26, or you're this. It's my true passion. The only time I ever threw fits, coaching, any assignment, I'm giving out numbers.
Yeah.
To the head coach. It wasn't I'd like to be there. It was I have to be in the room when these kids are getting the numbers. Just, you can't put the kid in the wrong number, right? It's one of those weird things. And then naming stuff. I come up with these stupid names. And, the two-punter stuff, right? Our calls, that two-punter stuff that we were running were just absurd, right? Lemon Jello was our, fake punt, triple option pass thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm just out there a fool yelling out Lemon Jello, just, I don't know, Speedo, Jello, yeah, it was whatever. It was left-hand motion. So we get the lemon Jello. And and then, so since it was lemon Jello and our right motion was royal, so it was like lemon Jello and royal pudding. So like royal pudding was just the same thing, just the other way.
Okay.
So I don't know, I'm a bit of an idiot. I like to have fun with stuff. I don't take it too awful serious. So Cover 2 Barbecue, love the name, love it. Maybe I have to get I was thinking about, I need to do a promotional thing when I visit these coaches.
Yeah.
Right? I'm thinking about doing like a Cover 2, like Tampa 2 on an apron. Because I think the 2 high would look really good on an apron. But our budget is negative, right? It costs me money to shoot these.
Yeah.
So I have these great ideas, and my wife's like, pump the brakes, big boy. This fun little hobby. You don't need another hobby that costs us money. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's where you just need to find a good sponsor to open it up. Some kitchen or something.
I bought these Grill Great things.
Yeah.
I just give them copious amounts of love. Right? I love them. I'm like, okay, that's somebody I need to get involved with. Obviously Traeger has a presence in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone loves a Traeger. They actually, I think one of our coach kids' parents built a house for one of the co-founders or whatever here in Park City. So there's a small in there, but dude, trust me, if I got Traeger and Grill Greats to be my sponsors, I would. Yeah,
you're flying around the country filming these now.
Oh
God!
I would float, dude. I would be so hyped, right? I would be so hyped that I would just float to all these locations, man. Just because, I'm gonna do it regardless.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna have the most fun doing it. But when you get people that validate what I'm doing or want to be part of it, that feels so cool. Because just like when you started this podcast, you're like, oh, I had this hope. I think it could be this.
Yeah.
And then you're like, but hell, I don't know,
Yeah.
And so when it starts gaining some popularity and you start having fun, you start getting guests and different opportunities, it's all right, cool, this is even better, because if it was just you and another coach talking ball, that'd be enough.
Yeah.
Right? It would be enough. You're like, oh, no one watches, I don't care. It'd be like if you're a high school soccer player, games happen, no one sees them, it's fine, right? You still enjoy it. But I'm going to do it either way. But yeah, if I could get sponsors or that kind of stuff, and I've got a couple of small opportunities. We talked about maybe spinning it off into a clinic where it's a picnic and a clinic and type thing. And I've had some people that are willing to maybe sponsor that.
Yeah.
Right. Because they know, all right, this is going to be X amount of coaches in person.
Yeah.
Right. So, we've got some different things like that. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm glad to get it going. I think with all the vaccine stuff going on right now, I've been vaccinated for a month. Most of the coaches have been. I think our county is 70% vaccinated. So I think it's reasonable and responsible enough situation that I can go visit people in their houses or even outside. That's why, we did Nate, we shot outside. And it's getting nice enough in Utah weather-wise where I could go shoot outside and even take one more layer of concern off. So, but I'm excited, man. I can't wait to get into it. So.
Now, the last question before we get into linebacker play is
totally.
Is what if you had a last meal or something you can make, what is your go-to I want to eat this?
Dude, I have so many things like that. I'm all about nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
So things I ate from my childhood. So I've eaten the same carrot cake for my birthday every year of my life.
I get it. Yeah.
Right. Right. And I would put it up against anybody, anywhere. All takers, don't care. I'll take my carrot cake. You can have the field or come out on top. Now, my wife has had to learn how to make it, right? It's the same recipe, the same recipe my mom took as cupcakes to kindergarten for me. It's the same one I want when I was 30, right? So, it's three full cups of grated carrots, right? And my aunts and my mom are all over me because I will not let her use a food processor, right, to do it because that was my job as a kid. That's why you taste better now as an adult because as a kid, mom's like, hey, come grate the carrots for your cake. So I would be in there grating out carrots. Well, and I jokingly say that my wife's tears make the cake more moist because it's just a pain in the butt, right? And so, but that's what I tell her. I'm like, come on, the tears make it taste better. And, and it does. I don't care, it does, right? So that's the way it needs to be made. right? I know it's not the right way. I know she could do the whole work in 20 seconds on the food processor. I don't care.
Yeah.
It will be hand graded, right? So that's like something like that. But like I've done an Italian beef recipe that I've given out a ton. Takes me right to my childhood. My birthday breakfast. This is a weird one, right? So I can cook whatever. I pride myself in my French omelets, no color, perfect, tenderness. But my preferred breakfast on my birthday is just plain white toast with butter and hot cocoa, because it was like our quick Saturday morning breakfast with my dad.
Yeah.
And so there's something so comforting about that meal. Not a great meal. It's nothing whatever, but like for me, it makes me feel so emotionally and spiritually warm to eat such a trash meal, right? I dunk it. I got to get a spoon to get the bread because it fogs out and goes to the bottom. I do not care. I'm instantly 10 years old with my dad getting ready to go out and do something on Saturday morning. It teleports. So for me, that's what food is.
Yeah.
For me, it's all about a feeling. That's probably why at one point I was 380 pounds, right? Like, I've lost 130 pounds from my highest. I love food. I can eat an immense amount of it. And I've done a much better job of learning like portion size. Like I bought a scale. I have to weigh my food. I have to recalibrate myself every once in a while. Like, no, 12 pork chops for 3 people is not right. Like that kind of thing. But for me, if I had one meal, I would probably do my mom's chicken and dumpling.
Okay.
Like that's it. Again, because it's just one of those meals that like, it's just perfect. It's just perfect, man. And like, I've never had it and been like, nah, I don't want it. Right. Or just leftovers. There's never enough. The day that, we scoop the last bowl, I'm heartbroken that there's not one more bowl. Like it's just one of those meals. And it's nothing fancy. It's Bisquick. It's drop dumplings. It's nothing fancy, but it's just one of those meals that, man, it's so good. Like I got really lucky, and this is something that's a free one for you guys out there. Like if you like to cook, and I stole this part of this idea that for Christmas one year, I asked my mother for all these recipes. Okay. And she gave me a recipe book, and I asked her though to handwrite them all.
Yeah.
Okay. Because someday she's going to be gone, and I'm going to have those recipes in her handwriting, and I might get emotional, but that means a lot to me.
I get it.
I had a friend who had a shadow box, and it was a picture of her and her great grandmother making biscuits, and the biscuit recipe in her handwriting, and it was such a powerful thing that I'm like, God, I need that. And so in our recipe book, it's got my mom's writing, it's got the recipe, it's who the recipe came from, a little bit of the history about it. And it's awesome. Now, I'll be truthful with you, I don't always follow her recipes. And she'll tell you I'm probably a better cook than she is. But and I'll change them, but I don't change the spirit. And so for me, and like that's what food's about for me, right? It's that family connection thing. And now that I can connect it with football, it's just as cool for me. But yeah, it would be mom's chicken and dumplings. And it eventually we'll get it out there for a cover 2 and barbecue because it is something simple.
Good.
It can almost be a crock pot meal that gets turned into the dumplings at night. One of those things that I've talked about shooting for in season. Like how do we reclaim time? How do we budget our time? So you take something that you don't have to be there while it cooks and then finish it, add that finishing touch and get it on the meal, and get it on the table pretty quick. So yeah, chicken and dumplings, man. I'm hungry.
I get it. And to your nostalgia point, like we talked about before, I made 2 cheesecakes earlier in the week. And I used a brownie crust for one of them. And my wife gives me crap every time I make brownies because she's got this big KitchenAid that I bought for her I think her birthday like 3 years ago or whatever. And I still hand break down the eggs and the batter and stir it all into one because that's what I did as a kid for my own mother. Like it's just there and just stir, and then you obviously lick the bowl to death. But that's a whole nother. That's how you end up being an offensive lineman in high school.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. No, that's awesome though. But yeah, no, you're right. Like the grate and the carrot. Sure, food processors are better. We have a KitchenAid. Same thing. What I guarantee you, it's like an afterthought for me to use the KitchenAid. And like I don't use a microwave ever. Like when we lived in Missouri, my microwave was in the basement. People would be like, "Where's your microwave?" I'm like, "Oh, it's downstairs." Like I don't use it, right? And it's like it's a bread box for us. That's where I keep my bread. Like I just I don't know, I'm just different, I guess, and I just don't do that kind of thing. But I told you, like, I'm not pretentious, like, like we talked about, like, I don't care. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Like, I don't care. But I just love cooking. During season, it's my stress reliever, right? Because, like, if you don't get your mind off of football, you'll burn out. Like, I'm a super intense guy. As I've gotten older, like, I coached other sports, and, like, I liked Coach Gardner's track version better than any coach I'd ever been. Because track's so empirical, it's data-driven, it's an individual sport grossly, for the most part.
Yeah.
And so if you ran a 12-second 100 and now you run 11.99, I'm happy because I know you're getting better.
Yeah.
And you're happy because you know you're getting better, right? And it doesn't matter if you never run a 10.7, but just it's progress. You've improved. The tape's going the right direction. Everything, and so, like, the pressure came off of me. And, man, I know I was a better track coach my first 5 or 6 years of coaching football because I was a better person. I was in a better headspace. I had better energy. And so, but I was aware enough to realize, like, man, I really like coaching a spring sport. I need to be that dude more, right? Because I can be super intense. I can be super demanding, and it's never good enough.
Yeah.
And I tell my kids, like, look, it is what it is. Like, that's my dad. That's my grandpa. That's how I was coached. I feel like it made the best version of me. But I also get, like, that's not always fun to be around. And so I've tried to sprinkle that part in. But part of me being in a good mood is when I come home and, like, shut everything off and I cook dinner because I'm not going to burn dinner, right? We got to eat. And so if we had a shitty practice, like, that film is still there. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to get mad about it. But for the next 20 or 30 minutes, I'm in the kitchen, got my dog next to me, we're talking, how'd your day go, kids, like all that kind of stuff. Like, I can turn back into the guy I really like to be and am. I can get away from football, even if it's only for the 20 minutes while I'm making dinner. And then after dinner, I can crawl back on the laptop and watch film and get all pissed off again. But for me, it's so therapeutic to do that, because we all fight that. It's a long season, and it goes well. It's even longer. We've had a couple 12, 14-week seasons. God, if you're not taking a couple minutes here or there to find some sort of reprieve from the pressure, especially because our expectations have been sky high, and I want them there. So for coming home and making, beef and broccoli instead of stopping and getting it at Panda Express, right? Not only is it healthier, tastes better, all that kind of stuff. It actually calms me down and allows me to decompress. So it's a huge piece of I feel like making me a better person, better coach.
Good. Now, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can start this, and I think, obviously we're going to talk linebackers here back and forth, and like you were a former. We've talked before when you did your little clinic for us. You talking wrong arming and how you loved being a D-line coach. And now you have a really good one. Now you moved to backers. What was that transition like for you, moving from D-line to backers in your system and adjusting to that?
Yeah. So I did D-line my first 4 or 5 years. So I would say my specialty is handling, I don't know if you want to call them divas or malcontents or kids that physically have the tools. All that kind of stuff, but for whatever reason they don't fit in, or they piss off the coaches, or that's my thing. Like, I can take a pain in the ass, and I can, whatever the deal is I can find an accord, and we can make them progress. So I left O-line to coach a running back. We had this running back who, he's the best player on our team, a couple years running. And we're at a coaches meeting, preseason coaches meeting. Everybody's complaining about it. Our head coach was finally like, guy, if he's our problem, we're screwed. We're screwed. He's like, yeah, I get it. He's all these things. But he's our best linebacker. He's our best running back. He's going to break the touchdowns and the yards record, but he ain't going to have the attempts. He's the best running back ever to come to our school. We can't complain about this kid. And so he goes, and he goes, I know how we're going to fix it. Cody, he's yours. Get him right. And so that's kind of when I started making her transition. Well, the next year, guess what? We had a similar kid at outside linebacker. Coach says, hey, man, can you do it again? can you get over there and get this kid right? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I left D-line to go to outside linebackers, right? And then I stayed there for 2 seasons. And then when I left from Illinois to Missouri, I got on staff, and the DC was a linebacker coach, and the D-line coaches did a good job. And the guy's like, what do you want to coach? I'm like, I don't care. I'll do outside backers, I'll do safeties. So I ended up coaching the safeties in a 4-2-5. And so, again, it was a great jumping off point for me because it really put me fully in coverage lane. You know, as a D lineman and linebacker in high school, and as coaching outside backers, but like in a 3-4 where we walked one of the backers down a ton, it kind of forced me to think about the game in the back half more. Yeah. So growth-wise, it was great. But I learned at that point from coaching other sports that I never played. So I coached wrestling and track, and I was a basketball, baseball guy. And so I learned how to learn, right? And so when I say, you're going to coach this, I just dove in. And then the next year in Missouri, I became the DC, and the DC had some young kids. He wanted to spend more time with his family. So I took over. And when I looked at the layout of talent, I had an O-line coach who wasn't really bought into coaching defense. And I get it because O-line's a full-time job. Like it's as detailed and time-consuming as being a coordinator. Can't convince me otherwise. So I get it. So I gave him my linebackers because I knew they were coached up. I returned all of them, and I had an all-stater. Here you go. The least amount of work you can do, right? And then I liked what the D-line coach did, so he was good. And then so I was like, I'll take the linebackers. Our linebacker group was our weakest group. So I felt like if the linebacker was going to be a problem, it was going to be my problem. Because I didn't want to have to yell at the coach or get mad at the coach because I felt like he didn't have him coached up. Yeah. I'd rather be pissed at myself, right? So that's when I transitioned to linebackers. And same thing, I would diving in. So I had talked to the previous coach all the time about what he was doing at linebackers. I knew what they were doing and when he taught it. And, you know, I understood what they were taught. And then the off season, I just went to work. You know, what's going to work for us? How are we going to read this? What's going to fit? Because we were 2 GOG front, 2 gap, people call it 2 gap, 1 gap or 2 gap open gap. And so we were moving to that. I loved it. We were going to do it. And I needed to make sure that my reads fit the scheme. So I dove into like open close reads, just open close window. Yeah. And I read everything I could, looked at everything I could, every video, clinics, all kinds of stuff. And then I was at the St. Louis Glacier, and I heard Coach Tuke from SEMO talk about how he reads backers. And I got about 70-80% of it from him and some other stuff from other people. But realistically, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I really didn't, right? I was prepared as I could be. It made sense to me, you know, the way we were going to read stuff, but it was definitely different because I'd always been in systems where they read guards, right? I'd always been in read guards, read your guards, you know, flow lies, guards don't lie, right? And so we weren't going to read guards as our primary read. And so I was a little, and like when I told, that's my thing about having a head coach as an offensive guy. He's not going to get too worked up about it. But I told the former DC, who was really a great guy, he was like, I don't know, man. Like, you know, kind of gave you that thing. And so like, well, I'm doing it. I'm just going to do it. And so dove in, and I love it. I have not changed. I've improved, but I have not changed the way we read backers in the past 6 years. Multiple different base defenses. I feel like the way we read fits everything we want to do. And so, so that's kind of the transition was that I kind of felt like that was the group that needed the most work. I was going to put all it on me. And then when I got to Park City, our head coach was coaching inside before he was an assistant coach. And so he just kind of said, he's the one that he preferred outside linebackers. And so he wanted to go down safety, outside linebacker kind of land. I was like, fine, I'll go to inside. Our D-line coach was pretty good, you know, so we were in good shape. And so I kind of stayed there. Now I've been really lucky. I've got dudes, you know, like, I love my D-line coach. My head coach is still my outside linebacker coach. We're actually going to we've been a little bit thin staff-wise. I think this year I'm actually going to have a separate safeties and corners coach for the first time since I've been here. So I'm pretty excited about that. A young guy. He's got a ton of playing experience. He's an overachiever, a super achiever, not even an overachiever. You know, I've been introduced to this new bandwidth of people that achieve stuff. Like we're all familiar with overachievers. I coach with some super achievers, dudes that like, you made really good life choices. You know, like just everything they do is 11.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and eventually, you know, that's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. That dude super achieves. Not overachieved. It's not even categorizing. And so this guy's another super achiever, and but he doesn't have a lot of coaching experience. So I'm going to put him with a pretty good talented group, right? I'm going to protect him with talent, and we're going to try to keep it simple. I'm not going to make him coach all DBs. We're going to coach just one piece of the DBs. I'm going to give him a ton of support. But that's kind of how, you know, it works. If I had a guy come in and he was like, I did done linebackers for 20 years, I would probably go and get in the defensive backfield. I don't care when I coach. I coach as a coordinator. I coach it all anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Like if we're in sevens, I'm back there talking to the safeties. Right. Or if we're in team, I'm in the box talking to people. I kind of coach it all anyway. You know, but yeah, that's how we got the linebackers. And so, you know, if we want to, the way it works is that it's all about flow for us. Right. Yeah. So flow. But we have indicators. Okay. We have certain indicators that we're looking for. So we'll just talk about gun, just because that's mostly what people will see. And we can talk about, we'll teach gun and we can go back to under center and kind of two back stuff. But gun, we cross read. Okay, so we cross read everything. And even in the 4-2-5, my like weak side safety would cross read. So we cross read everything. The only thing we're really reading, so we talk about key steps. Okay, so the words we use is key steps to service. Okay, so every day we get in our stance, right? I teach a very high stance, very high hip stance. Guys get in like what I consider maybe a traditional linebacker stance, and you can see their numbers. It kills me. I point to the 5-man sled. I'm like, you see that thing? That's what you look like. Like, see, they put numbers on the front of that 5-man sled? Like, they practice against that, dude. Hide your numbers. So we're very tall and high in our hip, and very flat back.
Yeah.
Okay. Really wide stance, right? And we flutter, okay? And so the flutter for us is like, think of return of service in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So think about Rafael Nadal returning a service, or Andre Agassi returning a service. As that serve's coming in at 114, 120 mile an hour, their feet aren't static. They're up on the balls of their feet. They're not covering any distance, right? They're not false stepping, but they're up on their feet and they're kind of moving so they can, boom, push off, right? And so we flutter. So that's how we initiate our movement. Okay, we talk about rather you be late than wrong. Okay, and we talk about how like your subconscious football player is far better than your conscious football player. So if you would just shut your freaking brain off and let it do its job, it will tell you where the ball's at.
Yeah.
When you make decisions, you can decide wrong, right? When you let your brain, your subconscious react, you'll find the ball much faster. And so that what we talk about in that flutter is that their cleats shouldn't really come out of the ground. We talk about less is more. It shouldn't be intense. They should be able to do it like while eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It should be like that chill. Okay? And it's giving that brain a chance to see what the hell's going on. Right? Even if they took too many flutters, I'm cool with it. Right? Because the next layer to that is 100% right, 100% wrong. Once you see it, it doesn't matter, you go. Right? And that's one of the things that while I talked about like I'm never pleased, I'm never satisfied, I do try to create an environment where you can make big mistakes. The worst mistake in our defense is to do nothing. I'd rather you get the wrong read and fly out of the shot of the cannon, because then I can be like, oh, you were looking at this, right? If you're stuck in the middle of no man's land and you're chattering back and forth, I have no idea what you're looking at. I have no idea what you're looking at. I have no idea what input is coming into you, and you're guessing and I'm guessing. If you would just commit to what you see, trust your eyes, go flying down there a million miles an hour, either right or you're wrong, we'll fix it real fast. So creating that environment of like, hey, dude, I want you screwing up. And I want you screwing up again in a huge way, because we'll get it fixed 10 times faster, right? And so, you know, that's some of the things that we preach daily. So the way we do is we mirror step that key step, right? So in our flutter, we flutter and take one little step. I mean, tiny step, right? I don't want to be right or wrong, so that minimal step kind of hedges to make sure I'm not too far off. But we mirror steps. So if the back is on my left and he steps with his left foot, I'm going to flutter left foot step. Okay? I'm going to mirror him, right? It's also a good indication for me, and I've done this in an outside backer, something I stole, was I want to be able to cross-check you on film. So if I stop the film and I see the key step went left foot and you went right foot, I know you're not watching this fucking film.
Yeah.
Right? I know you're not watching. Your eyes aren't where they're supposed to be. Okay? And so when I was an outside linebacker coach, we could spill or box, and the safety's job was to make them right. But I always told the guys I wanted them to think about it pre-snap. I'm going to spill everything. I'm going to box everything. Okay? And so if they were going to be a spill guy, they would have their inside foot up, right, forward body lean. If they were going to spill, I wanted them to step with the back foot, square their stance.
Yeah.
Okay? So, because that way, in theory, their body was in a position to get underneath stuff. If they were going to box, they were to pick up their inside foot, their near ball foot, pick it straight up, put it straight back down, and stay in a staggered stance, right? And so for me, I could watch film and be like, why did you box step and spill it? You know, are you just guessing? Are you not thinking pre-snap what your job needs to be? So for me, it was a cross-reference. It was cross-check somebody, right? So that's why we mirror step. Is it crucial? Timing-wise, maybe a little bit, but does it matter which way they step? No. But I want to make sure that they are mirror stepping with that guy because now I know they're watching. Okay? So it's key step, right? We're going to mirror, key step, and we call it to surface. So key step to surface. So again, if in the back, I'm playing Mike, and the back's away from me, and he steps at me, my eyes are now going to go to the surface in front of me. Okay, so I'm stepping mirror step to surface. And it's not guard. It could be guard, tackle, tight end. It's the full surface, right? So, because what I've got now, so step at me, flow at me, right? That's flow at. So if I get a puller away from me, that's mixed flow, right? So now I go into my mixed flow read, my movement, right? If I get, right, so that's how I cross check, right? I get step away, right? Surface, right, changes. I get pulled back. I know it's flow at me. Yeah. Okay, so we're reading the surface off that key step. Essentially, we're trying to verify mixed flow.
Yeah.
Right? So flow at, flow away, mixed flow. The last one we talked about is fast flow, and that's shoulders to the sideline. Okay? But that's what we're doing every day in Indy. We're getting our stance. We go stance, flutter, flutter, mirror step, mirror step, mirror step, mirror step to surface, mirror step to surface. And so we just hit all those real quick. And then I'd work flow. And so I'll step, and they have to step, right? So if I'm stepping at you, that's fast flow, or flow at you. If I stepped away from you, that's flow away, right? So you're going to run set hard, flow away, check your A, all those kind of basic rules, okay? And so we do all those. And then we go to pistol, okay? So, and it's the face freeze, right? So the quarterback faces you freeze, right? That's flow away. If you get butt, that's flow at, right? And that's how we work. And we work all those progressions, right? And within that, I'll do like a pass drop so that they get their drops and stuff. But that's how we read. So, in terms of the step, right? So if I've got the running back is away from me, that means the other linebacker has the quarterback. So a lot of times people talk about like stack, fall back, right? This is how we accomplish stack, fall back. Because I'm not reading the running back, I'm reading the quarterback. And so if it's zone read and the quarterback pulls it, that's my read. I'm on it. Now, so in theory, I'm seeing the guy I need to see. So to the next layer is now that I've got flow at me, let's say we got flow at me, and I'm a 30 backer, B gap is open, right? When I get my eyes to the surface, I'm looking for that window, right? We call it pressing our pre-snap window. So I'm pressing the D gap, looking for it to close, right? So if I get guard down, that closes, I now am gap exchanging with the D tackle, right? Or the D end, or however the case with the D lineman, right? So if I get cloudy, and so we just work two linemen, right? They step out, open. They step down, close, right? That's what we work on. So that whether it's trap or GT or veer or midline, that gives us cloudy, we run to that gap, right? It gets spilled, we run right to it. And so a lot of times when we're in an even front, we get into 2-1, 2-5. And now midline, trap, veer, GT, everything, power, everything's fit the exact same way.
Yeah. Because
they would get, right, step at them, step away from whatever, no pull, down, close window, run C gap, run B gap, whatever the case may be. So that's as simple as I can say it, really is what we do. So whether we're a 3-4 team, a 3-5 team, or a 4 even front team, we're open, close window. So we're a 3-5 base, right? And when we want to go too high, we don't go to a 3-3, right? Because that's the furthest thing from our 3-5, even though it looks the same. Our 3-5 is the closest cousin is the 3-4.
Yeah.
Because we have 2 overhangs, we have our 2 30 backers, right? And in our system, our middle stat guy in the 3-5 has no run fit or pass responsibility. So when I take him off the field, it doesn't change much of anything. There's one thing that changes. Everything else is the same for everybody, right? So for us, our too high solution is to put a second safety and pull a linebacker off the middle, right? Because it doesn't impact. The only thing it does impact now is that on pull. So if you're the backer, the stack backer on the guard side that pulls, tackle side that pulls, we now have to get across the midline. Whereas in the 3-5, we didn't have to cross the center because I've got that stack backer who can be the additional player.
Yeah.
So that's really the only impact. But again, I coach linebackers. It's my job to get it right. Right.
Yeah.
So I put that extra burden on me to make sure that in dime. So when we go to inside run, we'll run our dime. I mean, I'm putting in, half our snaps are in dime and inside run. So, I'm not loading the box. I'm unloading the box because we still have to play it. Like, I'm not going to give up 7 yards on track because we were in our 3-4. So, but the nice part is like the way those backers read, nothing changes. We want to bump our front and walk a backer down, which we do a lot. Doesn't change their read, right? We can be a 4-4 team, we can be a 3-4 team, we can be a 3-5 team, and my inside backers, nothing changes for them. They don't miss a beat.
Okay.
And so and then the thing that changes. So if you go to under center, then we read near back. So near back is our key. So that would be our key step to surface.
Yeah.
That's the progression. So I heard one guy explain it like if it was offset backs, right?
Yeah.
But that's just the eye turned.
Okay.
Right. So we just turned it. That's the fullback now. So just read his, and that's game plan too. We can dig like, hey, look, the quarterback's not a run threat. We're just going to key the running back the whole week.
Yeah.
Definitely something we can tweak. But that open close window, it's huge. We were a 2GOG team. We had to read it that way because the gap exchanges happened on base blocks.
Yeah.
Supposedly. Right. So if the guard is better than my 3-tech and he gets base block, like, oh, coach is a base block, he's supposed to fall in the A gap. Well, he lost the battle.
Yeah.
So if you're my Mike, you better be in the A gap, right? And so because that would be an open window, because right, like that's an open window, you got to fill it. Now it's not closed because he crossed face, and so that was the only way I thought it made sense to me. Because in theory, in our 2GOG, my linebackers have no gaps because we're 6 gaps with 4 D linemen, 2 gappers and 2 1 gappers. That's 6 gaps. My backers are completely free. Okay, and so they're completely out of the fit. But realistically, they have to. So while they don't have a gap, they need to fill the open window to play side. So that's kind of where I evolved, and mentally was like, okay, they don't have a gap, but they got to go where the hole shows up.
Yeah.
And so the way they had read in the past, I didn't think we would get to that spot. I thought we would have plugging. We would get 2 in a gap. We'd cross the face, 3-tech would cross that guard space, and I would have a backer stacking into the A gap, and I would get 2 in a gap. Right? And so, football theory, 6 gaps taken up by 4 guys, but it's worse when it's 5 guys are only taking up 4 gaps. So, if I believe that 4 guys can eat up 6 gaps, then I have to understand that we could bury, right? Like it's just as likely we could bury and get 5 guys in 4 gaps. So being able to fix those was huge. Plus, when we were at 4-3, we definitely had one guy completely out of the fit. And so we could change who it was. If we're in an over front, right? If we're in the over front, my overhang would be gap free, right? If we were in under, right, now I could sling my fits and have the will covered. If we were in like a 2 1s, G front, double G, then my mic would be covered, right? Because those 2 guys, in theory, the DNs would got base block, they'd go to B gap, and now my Will and my Sam would run C gap. So my mic was free. So those guys also knew, like, hey, in this call, I'm free, completely free.
Yeah.
These 6 have these 6, and I am just running around crazy. And so whenever we had a kid, an all-state kid, defensive player of the year for the region, it was Mike Backer. If I let him check, he checked to that 11 spot every time because now he could just freelance, right? And so when we made the move to the 3-5, that was part of what I liked was that that middle stack backer was getting that freedom.
Yeah.
He was getting the ability to run and just make plays. Now, he doesn't read key step to surface. That's the other caveat, right? Like, it doesn't change those guys. It doesn't change the 3-4. It doesn't change the 4-2 reads, the 5-2 reads. But that beast backer, who's my dude, right? He's reading traditional triangle reads.
Okay.
Right? So he's and realistically, his key really is really simple. He's attacking the guard that attacks him.
Simple, yeah.
Right? There's some zone stuff where we may change it a little bit. I may have him get on the mesh hip, right? Just to stay on behind the ball. But against gap teams, he's just guard at him. So if he gets the double team comes from there, he's fitting up that way. And that's also why I always try to tell people that our 3-5 fits like a 4-4, where you always are getting your 3 tech to the play side.
Yeah.
Like you're always getting that other dude right there in the B gap with a backer to fill because of the way we set it up. But yeah, that's our reads. I don't know if you have any questions about it or examples, but if we had like gun 2 back, there's cross reading.
Does empty change anything for you?
No. Empty doesn't change anything for us. Typically, like in our 3-5, we're going to boss a backer out, right? And so he's going to, and we'll mess around depending on the team, what they like to do, whether we'll be in like 4 eyes or 5. And we may move the nose to clean up the middle stack guy's read, just for fit. But he's now playing, he's spying QB naturally, all those kind of things. But yeah, no, it doesn't really change. Even if when we boss that backer, right? Let's say it's trip, and we go boss, we take our mic, our stack to the trip side, and we bump him out into like a 70 or a 90, right?
Yeah.
And back is to him, so it's trips near, right? He's reading QB. So if he gets RPO, it's all flow away at mesh. He's just fitting in the slant window, hook curl, right? Because that's flow away, right? And we typically 2-gap that D end to that side. And he plays like I would say 60-40 inside gap with his vision. And so now he's 2-gap. So that backer doesn't have B or C gap. He's free. We freed him up. And so ideally the ball will spill at the C. He can fill it. So it doesn't change his read. Now if the back was away, right, the back was away from him, now he's reading back. So if he got some sort of like GT back or some sort of stretch back at him, or even if they were like 2x2 and got jet motion, he's reading that jet back.
Okay.
That would be fast flow, right? So we still cross read even if he's out of the box. It's what we do.
Okay.
So really, like I said, we rarely get crossed up on anything, just because there's only so much they can do. And even if it's like same side GT, right, and we don't see the pull, right? So he steps forward, so we go front, right? Or like same side trap, right? We go there. Well, we're still getting down cloudy, right? So I don't even have to know there's a pull. We don't call pulls out. Not that we ever did when we were 3-14. They never got called out anyway, right? So I don't have to get pissed about we don't get pull calls, right? And so even whenever they try to mess with us by going same side, well, I don't care. That's just flow at me. It's coming that way. I get cloudy, and I'm running off when I got the gap. So I don't know it's necessarily mixed flow because it's not mixed, right? Yeah. It's flow away for the other guy, right? Because the guy stepped away from him, and for me, it's flow at me. So I don't give a shit about the pull. Now my D-line better do their job and spill it, but that's not mixed flow. They're not giving me, right? So that's the big thing about the surfaces. We're just checking. That's flow at me. No, it's not. It's flow away, right? So if it's flow away and I get a puller back at me, well, I'm flow away anyway. So I check my A gap. I get down. I'm running off anyway. So we really don't worry about, in the beginning, I tried to get them to read the far side of the line, but as we've gone, it doesn't matter. We just read, we get step at me. If I get flow at me, I need to make sure it's not mixed flow. That's really what we're worried about.
What qualities are you looking for in your backers when you're evaluating them? Because obviously, we've talked before. You're updating backers every so often because of graduation. You've had some really good kids lately, D-line and backers. Mm-hmm. So what qualities are you looking for as you're evaluating them in the summer?
Yeah, so I'll talk about in general, in our 4-2-5, okay? When we're a 4-2-5, I put my best backer, my best true linebacker, run fit stopper dude at the will into the weak side. Okay. We've got that natural bubble out there, no overhang. I want to put my dudes. So if you're going to run over there, that's fine, but my best dude's over there. So like last year when we were in our even front squad, my best D ends and my best linebacker were on the weak side. So my number one tackler and my D end was the number two tackler on the team. They were all doing it from the weak side. So if you wanted to attack that, that's fine. Run it my two best. And they were good enough that if you ran away from them, they'd run over there and make the tackle anyway. Okay? So I felt like, that's where you need to be a dude. If you have, again, my two GOG principles, right? Where a lot of times we're an over front, so that weak side D end has to be a dude. If you have a bubble on your inside, you're a man, right? 3 tech, man. Weak side 5, man. Okay? Nose can be a little reckless. He can kind of be any body type. He has to play with the motor, right? The strong side D end that's covered by the 3 tech can have a pull, right? He has to be a little bit more accountable for what he does, but he really doesn't have to be super special tool-wise. Mike backer, same kind of thing. He probably tends to be an A-gap guy. He's got the gaps crossed from him plugged. He doesn't have to have a lot of speed, right? Or the other inside backer. He can be your 5th D lineman kind of type, right? He's plugging A-gaps. If he's not, it's because we're in some sort of underfront. He's plugging the B. They've got a tight end. We walked another backer down. The nickel guy has to be, has to have coverage skills. I've had them all different sizes. They kind of have to be like a DB in terms of short memory, just because it's a stress point. In our 3-5, the beast backer has to be a dude, right? He has to be a dude. So we've only run it a few times, a few years, but we've never not had an all-state nosed beast and free safety.
Yeah.
The whole defense is set up for those midline 3 guys to make 80% of your plays. So, that's where the dude goes. Okay. This is it, right? Between my Mike and my Will, my weak side stack guy, he's going to be the worst of my 3. Okay, that's where the kid with the most limited skill set or the youngest kid goes. My guy that's going to play into trips, my Mike, he has to have some coverage skills.
Yeah. Right?
He has to be a little rangier. He's going to go. I may ask him to cover up a tight end. I may ask him to get down in the fit as a lineman at times. He has to be able to cover some of that kind of stuff. So he has to be pretty good, pretty rangy, have some physicality. The Zeke, our weak side outside backer, can be a kid with decent cover skills. Ideally, I'd like a kid that doesn't have to we never really attach him to the front. But it'd be nice if he could cover a wheel out of the backfield. Okay. And not because he's a lockdown guy, just because he's heady and he plays with position. It's really a guy that he's into the boundary. He's going against, he's a position kid. If he puts himself, the most important thing a lot of times our Zeke does is get in a good spot pre-snap.
Okay.
7x2, 6x1, 4x4, right? Like, we give him the freedom, but he has to understand why he's trying to do what he's doing and put himself in that position. And then our Sam, again, that nickel, the strong side guy, he has to have coverage skills. We've been pretty lucky. We do ask him to come down and cover up tight ends. So I like for him to be a physical kid. He doesn't have to be big, but he has to be able to punch and play with kind of traditional stand-up 5 front D and stuff. So typically those guys are pretty special. I would say as far as like talent distribution, it'd be the beast backer, which is our middle stack, and then the Sam. And then from there, it kind of filters in. Like I said, like if you got a thin guy who's not great at run fit, it's probably an outside backer, the weak side guy. Guy got kind of thick ankles, limited coverage skills, he's probably the will, right?
Yeah.
Like the kid that's my beast backer this year, his sophomore year started at will, right?
Yeah.
He's 6'1", 170 sophomore, right? Not a really good ball player, but couldn't have handled the pass coverage responsibilities in trips. Or if they got into pro 21 stuff, he didn't have enough lead in his ass to go down and cover up a tight end.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's what we're looking for. Kind of those two dudes need to be kind of special, and then we can kind of all right, what is he? Well, he's a little slow, but he's a smart kid. Okay, well, then he goes to here. Okay, he's a little light. He's, he's probably closer to being a safety, slow safety. That's that weak side guy. We had a kid that did a couple years ago for us, was a corner, but tore his ACL and came back and just didn't have the wheels yet. He was 10 months post surgery, and so he played his heart out for us, but he just didn't have. But he understood passing spacing, and like if you got a wheel out of the backfield, he played it great. He just couldn't play corner anymore. He didn't have the speed for it. I'm sure he does now. Now he's 2 years removed. He's probably got all the speed back. But that was the perfect fit for us because he was an excellent tackler. He understood spacing and routes and how to pattern match. He just didn't have the wheels to play our midpoint by our DB. Yeah. So that would be the perfect kid. Doesn't have to be a true down safety roll down. He can be a little bit more of a backer. We'll have that more this year. But yeah, that's what we're looking for as far as backers.
Okay. Now you mentioned pass coverage there, and you've already kind of talked about how you develop run fits and drill that. How do you develop the pass coverage techniques in practice?
Yeah, so it's all on count. So if you looked at us, I would have to say we're a country cover 3 team, even though it pains me. So right? Because it's insulting.
Yeah.
But truthfully, what it is. Imagine if you love Palm, you love two read, right? And you consider yourself a two read expert, right? But you have a love-hate relationship with the amount of teaching that two read takes, right? I gave up on two read even though I love it because I can teach regular cover 2 and quarters easier.
Yeah. And
then it's up to me to make the call. And so while it pains me because I think two read is elegant and it's amazing, and this will sound weird, I've been too athletic to run it. So when you're thick ankled and you have kids that have good processing speed and bad foot speed, two read can save your ass, right? Because they can see patterns and they can jump it. It gives them a chance to adjust on the fly. If you got dudes, just be dudes. And I've had dudes, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to be truthful. I've had dudes. I don't need them thinking. I need them going and getting the ball, right? And so, but I love pattern match. I love two read. So when I teach my country cover 3, we match everything underneath. Okay? And the way we've done it, whether it's cover 3, cover 4, quarter, half, whatever you want to say it, our man coverage, our man match, right? My linebackers' pass responsibilities really kind of stay the same. So it's all about we count, right? The way we count stuff, right? So in our base cover 3, my Sam backer, so my strong side backer, and my Zeke, my outside backers, their rule is they're going to reroute 2 and play to the face of 1. Okay? So they're going to knock the piss out of 2. They're going to put number 2 on the track, right? And then they're going to run at number 1 and looking for his face. So slant, hitch, in, digs, all that stuff. He's going to run. If he doesn't get that, he gets a true vertical by 1, he will round out and play whatever the outbreaking route is. Or he'll settle off. Okay, so he's, in theory, cover 3 flat defender who may never go to the flat.
Yeah.
Okay, because, like I said, country cover 3. Now, we're not spot dropping. We match shit. Okay? But the back half is midpoint. So if you look at it, you're like, that's not really it's not rip liz, it's not this, right? But underneath, we match everything. So my Mike backer, the next backer inside, right? He's wall of 3, face of 2.
Okay.
The reason why the Sam backer is rerouting 2 is to buy Mike time to get out of the box and get to his face. Okay? And so that's the way the progression works. So if we're in 2x2, it's reroute 2, face of 1, reroute 3, face of, right? So the back swings, right? Now we're looking to get to the face of 2, right? Which if he goes far enough, it kind of comes the new 2, the new 3. Yeah. We work to those things, right? So that's how they work. Well, we're in quarter, half, and we boss that Mike backer out into apex between number 3 and the tackle. And guess what his rule is? Reroute 3, face of 2. It doesn't change. And so, hey, we're going to play 0. Okay, cool. So our free safety goes down and plays number 2 weak or 3 strong. Our sandbacker plays 2 strong, right? And so now when the back goes out of the backfield, guess what my guy's doing? My Mike backer, he's just carrying the guy that he would carry normally, right? So hey, that guy's out, and so the whole way he's playing faces the whole way out. So we get kind of a mod kind of thing. So in theory, that swing route, we'll give up the swing or the out by the running back because it's behind the line of scrimmage and it's going towards the sideline. But we're not going to let the slant come back underneath that linebacker's act. So he's playing faces the whole way out.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to him, right? That guy's breaking his leverage, and he's like, cool, I'm running. Face of this guy. He's going to collision you. Throw the flag, I don't care. We're going to collision him on the way out. And so when we play our match, our mod, right? Same shit, right? He's now collisioning. He's got a face, right? So he's cutting that inside breaking route. The DB's taking the running back, right? So the way we describe pass coverage to our guys, no matter what the coverage is, our linebackers are pretty much doing everything the same because they're just matching up the route, distribution of route. Okay, the one caveat would be on sprint out. Sprint out changes some things because of who the pull-up player is, and now that middle beast backer that has no job becomes the replacement player. So if the mic triggers on the quarterback, the beast covers.
Yeah.
We were talking about, I know other people do it the other way. They have the beast be the pull-up player, and they don't make the stack backers ever change their job. I like that too. Never done it. I think our kid could do it. I'm going to find out when we go to summer, right, if that's something I want to change. Because then I really don't have to worry about the timing of them switching. But I do like that Mike, who's out in space, having leverage running at the quarterback. But a team that I really trust and guys that I think are really, really smart and they have a ring and I don't, do it the other way. And so I think it's worth looking. Yeah. But, yeah, the way we do our counts, my guys understand in this coverage, my count's this, right? And so that's all we're trying to do is play wall verticals and play the faces coming at us. Okay. We talk a lot about stretch return. So we try not to vacate gaps. So as we're pushing out for that face, it doesn't come, we want to return. It's like just rubber band. So you just stretch that rubber band, you return back. We do a lot of drills where I have odds like a crosser, and they'll meet, carry, and return. So I'll put all 8 or 9 running linebackers out in one line and have one bird dog run across, and you'll see them meeting, carrying, return, meeting, carrying, return the whole way through, and then that guy goes to the end of the line. That next guy's the bird dog, and he comes back. And so we get pretty good about and some of the guys that get really good will actually reroute some of those crosses with their ass so they don't get in trouble because they're not using their hands. Yeah. We talk a lot about when we get those face reads and guys are coming at us, we get our head around and we try to hit their downfield shoulder with our upfield shoulder. We clip them, right? But we have our head around right before contact. So it looks like we're trying to play the ball and we just lost sight of the guy. We're trying to hedge our bets because we're super physical. And we get it. We get PI. We get defensive holdings. We get it, and I don't care. The record is 5 straight plays in a JV game. We got 5 straight penalties on us. The 6th play, they didn't call it. I told the kid I was one of those weird things where you're so proud of the kid because this kid, he smashed the kid. He played his rules. No one yelled at him. You're never going to get yelled at for PI in our program. Or jumping off sides as long as you beat the shit out of the offensive line. And, I've got film of it, 3rd and 7, state quarterfinal, ball in the red zone. My nose guard jumps off sides, destroys the center. I'm on the sideline clapping. He got off, shot his hands. 100% right, 100% wrong. It's that environment. While our expectations are mile high, and aggressive mistakes like that I can live with. Now, a kid jump off sides and doesn't touch him, I lose my shit because I'm like, what are you doing? You should be getting off so hard you can't stop. If you can get off and not touch that guy, you're not getting off. For me. And so, again, those environments where we're dude, make a monster mistake, but it's a million miles an hour with the right intention. Just a little bit of I think that's probably, as I've gotten older, one of the things that I've been more conscious about is making it an environment dude, I need you making mistakes, giant mistakes in June and in July so that we don't have to do it now. Because if you are playing guarded in practice in July, we're just never going to progress.
Okay.
And then the other thing we do too, and I talked about this a little bit with the things I shot with Nate, but we don't do a lot of traditional indie during practice. So if we're doing specials and my linebackers aren't in specials, or like half of them are, half of them aren't, we'll go grab some indie time then. But we do a 10-minute indie period at the end of practice.
Okay.
And we call it opportunities, right? The ops, and indie ops. And I can keep them all, I can keep one, I can keep two. The thing that I love about it is that I can fix a problem before they go home. And so we can have a conversation, we can fix it. And then the next day when we're in film, like, hey, Johnny, we talked about this, right?
Yeah.
And now he's not getting embarrassed, right? It's not the first time he's hearing it. It's, hey, this is that what we talked about. This is why we stayed an extra 2 minutes, 60-second conversation and fix. And then he gets a chance. He's not wearing it on the way home. He isn't thinking about it. He isn't like watching film being like, oh, coach is going to be pissed, right? Coach has already talked to him, told him he loved him, got it fixed, have a good night, right? See you tomorrow. Come into practice, we're reviewing it. Hey, yep, we got it covered.
Yeah.
I think growth-wise, getting kids, young kids, especially your JV kids, to play better, huge. Last year, our JV linebackers, no shit, they were as far as read, understanding their job and being in the right spots, were as good as any varsity squad I've ever had. Now, physically, don't have all the tools. Young, undersized, whatever, but from like being in the right spot. I had a 5'4", 117-pound Will Backer last year that led the JV in tackles. Dude's reads were perfect. Now, he ain't going to grow. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with him. But, you know what I'm saying? But what happened was like, I'd watch film or I'd watch this and I'm like, hey, come here. I'd keep I've got a junior, a 2-year starter. He averages 12 tackles a game. I don't need to talk to him. I've got a senior, other linebacker. I didn't need to talk to him. So I would just take 5 minutes and pull over my 3 or 4 JV guys. We'd work over some stuff, right? Or I would teach them off the other guy's mistakes. Hey, look, when we watch film tomorrow, we watch varsity practice on film, you're going to see Brian did this and Stone did this. Here's that's a problem with their offense. And we'd run through it because they get one less day. Because in Utah, we play the JV game of the varsity team the Thursday before.
Oh, I've heard about y'all's schedule from Kearns. Trust me.
The UVA. We're not playing Week 10 because of it. But yeah, because you play a varsity game on a Wednesday, a varsity game on Thursday, Week 9, Week 10, which means you're playing a JV game on Tuesday, and like in the freshman game on the Tuesday, you get 1 day to prep, and you are not having Sunday practice in Utah.
No.
You're not doing it. I don't care if you're not in a Mormon location or not. It ain't going to fly.
No.
So you come in Saturday, you play on Thursday, Friday they're at school, right? So then Friday afternoon becomes your Saturday morning film and kind of thing. You give them Saturday and Sunday off for their bodies to heal. You come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday walk through play, or Monday, Tuesday walk through play. It's pretty wild. So yeah, it's definitely unique. But yeah, we play our JV games before. And that's the other thing too about our JV teams have to go in there and fight left-handed. So all the scheme shit I do, they can't use it. They can't.
Yeah, I get
You're in base, dude. Right? And so we have like 3 tiers of stuff. We have like our base stuff we do, right? And then we have like our checks. And then I have this absurd shit. Like I like doing absurd things, right? So like if you see my 2 punter stuff, and I like doing funky stuff, right? So funk, right? So the way something becomes a check is it's funk first. Hey, we're going to try this funky little thing. And if we use it, and I end up using it against 2 or 3 teams, it becomes a check, right? And so that's like the progression. So I'll be like, I got this cool little trick I'm going to do. And I'll explain to my D-line coaches, my JVDC. He's like, yeah, dude. And I'm like, by the way, no, you ain't using it. And a couple years later, he might get to use it, right? Into the season, he might get to use it, right? Because after it's on film or not. But so I always feel super guilty, some of those guys. Because they did burn me. My first year here, we had a team we were going to play. It was going to be a tight game. They had a glaring issue on their kick return team. And I was like, oh, we're gonna get an onside, maybe 2. And because we'll get the first one, and then they'll overcorrect, and then we'll get this, right? And I'm watching the JV game, and sure as shit, they did it. They did the onside right where we were going to. I'm like, dude, don't take this wrong with it. Give a shit if the JV team loses.
Yeah.
I need that. I needed that for Friday night. Now we ended up winning anyway, but I was like, okay. So then, I thought it was just inherently understood that we wouldn't do that stuff. And so then I eventually was like, look, you can't do this, right? Like, I'd have a conversation. We have a talk like, hey, what checks can I use? What can't I use? What do you think will work? And so, yeah, so I feel guilty sometimes. We're like, that cool thing that we know is going to work.
I get it, Coach. I get it 100%. Last question I got for you before we go is you mentioned filming practice. Is how much of your practice do you film, and then how much of it do you will at least have time for to go over with your guys the next day in your meetings?
Yeah, so we practice. We have 16 periods. Okay, we have 4 pre-practice periods, a 5, 2 10s, and a 5. Right, so 30 minutes. And then we have 12 5-minute periods. So we're at 90 minutes of practice. And in that, we always get team. We always get 7. And we always get either our inside run or our blitz pickup. We may not get our outside run period or bubble period. We may not get some of the specials. But realistically, we've been very lucky last few years to have some female football assistants, high school kids that film for us and help our trainer. There's a group of like 4 or 5 of them. They're rock stars, like COVID check-ins and all that stuff. Like life got so much better because they just, after the first couple of days, they had it figured out and they could just run stuff for us.
Okay.
They make things really easy for us. So they get a ton of things shot for us. But that being said, if you're volunteering for a couple sweatshirts or whatever and a free ride to the game and that kind of stuff, if you've got a big physics test coming up, you're not going to be at practice to film, and we just don't get that film. But we try never to miss those kind of core sections. 7th is important. Inside run blitz to pick up, wildly important. And then team time. We do separate our teams because we are good on good. We're 2 platoons. We're good on good. The cool thing about our practice is, like, if we go to team offense, so varsity team O versus varsity D, given a scout look, but our JV defense is getting their scout look at the same time. So we'll have 44 kids going at once. Good. Right? And then you have 3 or 4 key subs, 3 or 4 key subs each side. So you've really got 50, 60 kids engaged on like a 3-play cycle. And so, like, our practices, there's not much standing around. There's not. Like, you show film and there's like 3 kids behind the offensive huddle and 3 kids on the defensive sideline. It's perfect. Yeah. Right? And that, again, our JV kids' development is so good because now they're 2 platoons, so they only have to learn half as much. And they're getting 4 or 5 times the reps, maybe 10 times the reps than no one can get. And, like, I can travel. So during our scout look, when we're servicing the offense, I can go down and coach the JV defense. So I can go down there and support my D-line coach, who's the DC. We can have conversations about game plan, why this good call, better calls we talk about. Hey, that's a good call, this is a better call. Right? Things we talk with the kids with it, coaches, we talk in terms of that. And I can kind of teach some of our younger staff members and stuff. I can kind of sit in the back and kind of do what I do for our safeties, our back hip kids, try to increase our football IQ. I can do that for the coaches. So it's really nice. I can coach my coaches during that period to a degree and kind of stay off. But I also can jump in and get my positional group guy. And then we go to defense. I go back down. Yeah. So I love the way we practice. I think we're going to be more like a 1.5 platoon team this year. There are certain pieces I do not want to lose. But as far as what do we watch, so we make it available to everybody all night, right? If there's a bunch of stuff, if I feel like we can't get it done in 15 minutes or 20 minutes before practice, I may make 2 cut-ups, but I typically make a cut-up of practice. Okay. Right? And so because I don't work on campus, we only have one on-campus coach. I'm coming from Salt Lake, so I could be coming, and when I say Salt Lake, it's the Salt Lake greater area. I could be coming from an hour or hour and a half away for practice. So just depending where I'm at. And so sometimes I come in there and I'm changing my clothes on the way up to the practice field and I miss film. So, but the beautiful thing is our head coach is a defensive guy, right? And so I'll make my cut up as a contingency plan. I'll have it cut up and annotated so that he can just run it, right? And so plus the kids know that and they'll go and look at the cut up ahead of time. Yeah. right? So they don't feel like they're ambushed, right? But like I said, if it gets ton, I might be like, hey, look at these, and then we'll cover, whatever. So I'll be like, film study versus practice. Like I'll label it, I'll put a note in there. But it's rare that we have that much to review. But yeah, typically I try to cover, a couple, 2-3 things in sevens, 1 or 2 things in inside run, and 3 or 4 things in team. It's just proportionate. Maybe a play or 2 per 5 minutes. So if we're doing 7s for 10, that should be 2 to 4 plays. Inside run should be 2 to 3 plays. Team should be from 6 to 7 plays. I should have a comment. If I feel like we're way above that, then we have to talk about why the fuck I have to review so many clips. Why are we playing poorly? We got to get this fixed. Like, I don't have time to come here and fix all this. Typically that's an effort thing, attention to detail thing. Yeah. And usually you can show the volume of bad plays and that fixes it. But yeah, so if it's much, I'll send out a cut up. I try to send out cut ups of what we're doing. That's something I've gotten better at, is sending out small 10 to 15 play cut ups of what's important or where we're messing up. And I may get crazy even and put like, this is the play, this is what we did wrong, here's them executing it in the game, intercut it and bounce back and forth so they can see like, hey, look, we ran this, but realistically we're in trouble here. So that's, something we try to do. I don't script my team sessions. I used to be like, okay, we're going to run this play against this call and this play against that call. But because I have our head coach runs my scout for me, we can have a conversation about the team. And so one thing I do on a game plan is I like to write a 2 to 3 sentence description of their offense.
Okay.
Right? If I can't encapsulate what their offense's goals and what they try to do in 2 or 3 sentences, I don't understand them well enough. If I don't understand them well enough, we're going to struggle because I'm at the wheel, and if I don't have a feel for what they're doing, I'm in trouble. So we talk about that, and so whenever he's running plays, I'm making genuine calls in the moment.
Okay.
Right? I'm playing the game in my head.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I get us in good calls, I get us in bad calls. I get us in great calls, I get us in awful calls. And so sometimes it's a matter of like, for me, it's also a way for me to, when I review, like, okay, I love that call, but man, if they run that, we just can't play it right. Right. So for me, I think like I've gotten away from scripting because I felt like I wasn't organically finding flaws.
Yeah.
Right. Cause like, in theory, everything fits X and O wise. We're sound, everything we do. So like, that's not a great call, but it's still an okay call. Well, not having it scripted, you run into some busted ass calls. Like, ooh, that's a problem. So I found and then what I do too is that's all on an iPad. So this cheap little program I love. I have to draw the play once, and then it flips it. I can color code everything. And then what happens is if I feel like we're running some plays disproportionately, I just eliminate plays. So we might start off with like 17, 18, 25 play cards on Monday. And then all of a sudden Tuesday it's like 20. And then Wednesday it might be down to 12.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I trim it down and I'll force that play caller on the other side's hand a bit. If I don't like the way it's going, I can force it, or I'll just yell out, hey, you need to run blah, blah, blah 2 times the next 4 plays. That kind of thing. But typically we're on the same page.
Okay. I think that's a perfect way to end it, Coach. So, coaches, obviously, Coach's contact information, how to follow him on Twitter is all below. Make sure you check out that. Link to his YouTube channel so you can check out the glorious Cover 2 and Barbecue will be below as well. Click subscribe to his channel. Watch some of that, especially if you're looking for some food stuff. Check out our affiliates and sponsors below. Check out the tags if there's any point you want to go back to, especially if you want to listen to us talk more food at the beginning. In order to that, thank you, and that's another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.